So on yesterday's show, we had some breaking news. And I don't know if you guys noticed or not, but apparently Putin is all in for Kamala, which I found hilarious and beautiful and funny because it is, as Miguel H. has written down there, amazing. It is amazing. It was the most epic troll of all time. And I will open up with this video because we did play it. We did talk about it. Let's go ahead and play it again.
That if we can name a favorite candidate, it used to be Joe Biden, but now he is not participating in the election campaign, and he recommended to all his allies to support Ms. Harris. So that is what we are going to do. So it was, well,
Putin's all in for Kamala. See, vote blue no matter who. You got Putin on your side. That's hilarious.
He said that we should. That is why we should also do that. Well, her laugh, she's laughing. Her laugh is so fascinating. It means that everything is good, and if everything is good, it means that, for instance, if we're speaking about Joe Biden, there are so many sanctions against Russia introduced, and if everything is good with Ms. Harris, maybe she'll refrain herself from such measures, or maybe she'll change them. So in the end, it will be the choice of the U.S. people, and we will respect this choice.
Hold on. Wait a minute. Mastermind Hour writes, I guess Zelensky is on Team Trump. Oh, that would be funny. But the reason why I'm opening up is good old Putin. Now, hold on, Putin. Don't come after me, man. All right. And no liberals. I'm not a Russian asset. But I do want to pull this up here because I found it interesting that once again, Kamala got support from none other than Liz Cheney. Now, the thing is, I just want to pull up this. This is from 2020, though, because Liz Cheney recently endorsed good old Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is a radical liberal who would raise taxes, take away guns and health insurance, and explode the size and power of the federal government. She wants to recreate America in the image of what's happening on the streets of Portland and Seattle. We won't give her the chance. And, of course, I want to pull up this other video because, again, there's been reports that Liz Cheney is all in for Kamala.
As somebody who is a centrist, and in one fell swoop here, he has put somebody on the ticket whose voting record in the Senate is to the left of Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren.
I didn't get that memo. And seriously, listen, to conservative voters, to Trump supporters, to libertarians, Kamala is not to the left of Bernie Sanders, and I'm not defending Bernie either, but Kamala is not a progressive. She's not a leftist. She's a neoliberal. She's a corporatist. She might talk about health care and Medicare for all, but she's doing that to swindle brain dead, vote blue, no matter who sycophants, okay? I can't stress that out enough, okay? She ain't on the left. That's just what it is.
So I think that, the American people are going to look at the substance of this. They're going to look at what she stood for in the past. They're going to look at what she said during the primary election. And it's very clear. She is a radical liberal. She's somebody that has said we ought to spend $32 trillion on Medicare for all. If you look at her record as well in California, she did, in fact, essentially ban gun sales with executive action. And she threatened during the primaries to do the same case as some.
So recently, though, and this took place, Liz Cheney Harris endorsement included an underappreciated message. Oh, my goodness. When the Republicans for Harris rolled out began in earnest a month ago, the effort featured some fairly prominent names, including former GOP governors, members of Congress, and even Republicans who served on Donald Trump's White House team. In the days and weeks that followed, the list of Republicans backing Vice President Kamala Harris continued to grow. There was, however, one name in particular that many political observers in both parties were keeping an eye on. What would former Representative Liz Cheney do? The question has an answer. Former Representative Liz Cheney on Wednesday endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris for president. My goodness, how the turntables have finally turned, to quote Michael Scott. But I do want to pull up this commentary from Glenn Greenwald. Congratulations, Kamala team. You got the neoconservative wing. You got Dick Cheney and his spawn supporting you. Well done, Democrats. Keep hitting those home runs.
Now, as I stated at the top of the show, I want to delve into this new announcement today, this new indictment by the Biden administration that, I know this will shock you, according to them, Russia is interfering on our elections. But before I get to that, I just want to tell you about some very breaking news. It happened just maybe 20, 30 minutes ago, which is that Liz Cheney, whose political career is obviously owed to her father, Dick Cheney, who was the vice president from 2001 until 2009, played probably the largest role in things like the war on terror, attacks on civil liberties, the torture program around the world, the invasion of Iraq, that whole litany of abuses that pretty much every liberal at the time accused of being a war crime, an attempt to drive up the stock of Halliburton, to profiteer off wars, to violate human rights. Liz Cheney, in order to start her political career, essentially endorsed and defended every single one of those policies until today. She'll do that. If you ask her whether any of those war on terror policies was wrong, invading Iraq, putting people in Guantanamo with no due process, domestically spying on people with no warrants, she'll tell you no, all of that was justified by virtue of the fact that we have this threat called terrorism and civil liberties had to give way in order to do it. Just about 20 or 30 minutes ago, Liz Cheney, who was a member of the Republican Party in the House until she lost her primary by a record-setting 36 points as an incumbent in your own primary. To lose by 36 points is unheard of, but she got booted out of Congress, but still is a hero of the establishment media and American liberalism, announced her support and endorsement for Kamala Harris, who in 2020, she essentially accused of being a communist, somebody who would bring abortion on demand, said essentially every scary and negative thing she could about Kamala Harris. In 2020, she now wants Kamala Harris to be president. She said that obviously she would never support Donald Trump. At the last election, she recommended leaving the ballot blank. She said this time we don't have the luxury of doing that, nor do we have the luxury of casting a vote for a third party, but instead, we now have to cast the vote for the only person who can defeat Donald Trump, which is Kamala Harris. So Liz Cheney joins a long list, not of Republicans, but of neocons and warmongers and militarists and corporatists who only a decade ago were widely branded as fascist, as racist, as war profiteers, as war criminals, as satanic. Those were the things that you pretty much were obligated to say about people like Liz Cheney or David Frum or Bill Kristol. And yet they have now all become not just anti-Trump activists, but loyal vocal members of the Democratic Party.
So I want to pause there. I'm going to pause right there. It's interesting how people have given up their credibility. It's interesting how Democrats have not only shifted further and further into becoming Republican light, but it shows me, and should show all of you, that anybody that's going to bat for Kamala Harris on her policies or whatever they are, they're clearly lying to you. Kamala has nothing to run on. All the people who called her this, that, and the other radical communists are now more than happy to support her again. Dick Cheney's daughter, other prominent members within the GOP. What does it tell you? What does it tell you? It should also shine a light on just what's going on with the Republican Party and their reorganization. Now, there's a lot to be said about Donald Trump, but the very fact you have diehard old guard members of the GOP leaving their party to support their exact opposite says one thing. They know that they can control Kamala. They know that she will play ball, and they know that she won't upend the system too much. Now, Donald Trump isn't going to change anything either, but they remember 2016 through 2020, and a lot of people within the GOP probably assumed that Trump would be biddable, like George Bush Jr., would be more obedient. But no. And now we have a great awakening, the great reveal, because you have so many people saying, oh, isn't it great that Republicans are backing up Kamala? No, it's not. No, it's not. These are party members. These are party members that are bitter in how the Republican primary even played off. Because I remember the Republican primary. Donald Trump didn't show up to any of the debates, but yet he was the number one thing that they talked about. And he won all three by not even attending. And he still won support from the voters. The old guard wants control. The old guard wants their party back. And so that means they'll compromise their values by being part of another neoliberal party, the Democrats. No matter what happens, people, especially to you most diehard vote blue no matter who volunteers and supporters, while you're out there canvassing in the streets in the rain, in the snow, in the heat, know this, that when the table's being set, you will not be prioritized. You're not even going to sit at the kids' table. You're not going to be invited in the house. You're going to be left out there in the streets like you always have been. Tell me again, vote blue no matter who. How is it that we're going to negotiate with Kamala? How is it when the old guard of the GOP is all in line for Kamala? Does that not send a shiver down your spine? Because it should. It's one big club, and you ain't in it.